the Trump-Biden campaign of 2020 was at least double that. I can't quite remember the stats. The one that's coming up now in 2024, we're expecting 3 times more ad spend than the 2020 election.
Are you serious?
3 times more, yes. So it is more important than ever to consider how this will affect your brand's ad strategy and what you need to be doing to combat it.
Revenue boosters, tips now in the fast lane. Watch your profits grow. Welcome to the Riff Up Podcast.
Hey, Zach.
Hey, Greg. Happy to be on.
Yeah, welcome. Excited for you to be here. I'm excited for you to be here. You have just incredible experience in marketing, with SEO, with paid, from years of experience. But before we get into the nitty gritty today, I want to share with everyone a lot about what you've learned on the ground. But can you give everyone a little bit of background and context, what your story is and how you got here?
You got it, Greg. So I am co-founder and managing partner of Galactic Fed. We're a growth marketing agency with around 150 team members. We specialize in the full suite of growth marketing. So paid media, SEO, email, outbound, influencer work, social, web dev, and design. So we do pretty much everything to help brands grow either from 0 to 1 or 1 to 1 million. We've worked with some of the biggest names in tech, in B2B and consumer space. And we have an internal R&D department where we really are always trying to push the bounds on what is happening next in the world of marketing. Lately, that's AI, but there's some more pertinent, real level things that are happening rather than just this big industry transformation. Excited to share with you today some of the things we're seeing and what brands can be doing.
Awesome. How did you get here? What was your story?
Yeah, so I've always been very interested in marketing since I was young. Since I worked at a pizza shop in high school, and they asked me to run their Google Ads campaign, and I set a broad match campaign for the word pizza for the entire state of Tennessee, and blew that up. Did not get any good value. I'm sure the owner was not very happy with me on that one. But I learned a lot there, and I really realized that marketing is the way to drive top line. It's the way to help companies grow and expand, and I found that to be so exciting. So I built my first company in college. I taught myself to code and build a personal website builder company. Again, reinforced how important marketing was when that company just didn't work at all. I worked at Procter & Gamble. I worked at Google. I worked at a large billion-dollar B2B SaaS company as well. And really just saw the different angles of how important marketing is and how different it can look. And really settled on this digital marketing, growth marketing type of space as the future. Saw that at Google, saw that at some of the other brands too. So it's been exciting now running Galactic Fed for the last 6 years and seeing how things have changed so much.
That's awesome. I remember when we first met years ago, you were just ending your time at Google, getting Galactic Fed started. What was that nugget that took you from what you're doing at Google to starting Galactic Fed?
Yeah, what I found was Google's a wonderful company, of course. We spend a lot of money with them on ads, but I felt that many of the Google advisor teams were really focused more on getting companies to spend more money. They were helping in some ways, but I felt that I was being asked to do things at Google and work on products that were more designed to spend more money. And I really wanted to make sure that we were helping the brand grow. And I did a bit of freelancing on the side, and I realized wow, with just a few hours a week or more, I can really just help an entrepreneur or a marketing leader or a business owner just make their business so much bigger than they ever thought before. And I think that's the coolest thing you can do in B2B is be really involved in helping a brand grow and achieve their dream. And I thought that marketing was the best way for me to do that. And I thought the best way to do it at scale would be to start an agency where I could work with lots of brands and hire really great people and really great talent who can help push that forward.
That's awesome. All right. So before we get into what you're learning, give us a shape of Galactic Fed. How many brands are you working with? Whatever metrics you could share so we could understand some of the experience you have day to day.
Definitely. We've worked with over 600 companies in the last 6 years. Yeah. Not right now.
That's
not
crazy.
In total. I don't know the latest counts. It's not that high right now. Obviously, some brands come to us for one-off work. Some we work with them for a while, then they build an in-house team. But Greg, we've seen a lot. So over 600 companies is a lot of information that we've got. So we've grown the company a ton since then. We've managed millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in ad budget. We've helped hundreds of companies launch SEO campaigns, email marketing campaigns, social media, build websites, influencer marketing. I'm using small words everybody can understand, but obviously all of these projects are very complex and involve many moving pieces. But yeah, again, we started, I'd say myself, went to school at Stanford, and my co-founder was a physicist at CERN on the team that recreated the Big Bang Theory and the CERN Large Hadron Collider. So we're very like STEM sort of background, the two of us. And we really try to bring that into Galactic Fed. Hence the name. We love sci-fi too. In the beginning of the company's history, we hired lots of engineers, data scientists, PhD biologists, and folks like that, and taught them how to do marketing. And though now we hire a lot, more traditional marketing folks as well, I found that sort of ethos of the sort of engineering mindset that we've had has really made us more attractive to companies that are really trying to just grow very fast. And we've been successful in doing that.
Super cool. That's awesome. I keep hearing you mention SEO. I know that that's one of the main things you all work on. What's happening? I mean, there's two big AI things happening that I'd love your insights on. Number one is AI content generation. And number two is Google's algorithm and how it's changing with all of their internal AI. What can you share about what you're seeing on the ground day to day around SEO?
Yeah, well, content generation is, of course, a big thing that's changing with AI right now. I'd say that is the sort of first foothold that people are seeing in their day-to-day life, especially marketers, where they previously employed legions of folks who would be writing articles for them. And now there's the option, at least, whether or not they want to take it, do a more simple route and to use some tools like Jasper, like ChatGPT, even to write the content for them. We found that for some brands, it makes sense, obviously, to work with these content engines. And of course, there's always needs to be a human element, at least right now within it. You need to, at the very least, have someone reviewing them, checking them, making sure that it's not just straight what the prompt is spitting out and it's actually relevant to users and doing good prompt engineering there. But what we're finding too is I'm very curious, at least, to see how this experiment goes in the next 5 years, where I could see a world where in a world of AI generated content, which is by definition, basically the average what's on the internet, real, authentic, new stories, new insights, human element, human focused contents will be more of a rarity in this sort of sea of very similar templated type of content. So it's going to be really interesting, Greg, to see how that changes over the next few years. To your second question about what's Google doing, how they're updating things. Obviously, there's only so much they put out, and usually it's in the direction of driving more revenue for them, often pushing more towards Google Ads, which we work with and love as well. But on the SEO side of things, Greg, one of the most important things that we're seeing is, of course, Google implemented Gemini into their search results, and we're expecting that these LLM-based responses are only going to become a bigger part of Google and other similar search engine. Bing, of course, has this large partnership with ChatGPT as well. One of the biggest things that I think might be interesting for users, or listeners to listen to and to take away for your own business, so something you can say, okay, Google is changing their SEO. How do I get on top of that? Is this concept of entity-based recognition rather than just link. So if you go back to the very beginning of Google, the revolution that made Google so much better than Yahoo and other search engines was this concept of measuring the links, the backlinks that are pointing to a different website. So if your domain has links from the New York Times pointing at it and it's in a relevant space, maybe you're talking about, I don't know, plant conservation or something like that, and the New York Times writes an article about plant conservation and it links directly to your sites, that means you're authoritative, and that means they'll rank higher in Google. Marketers, we all know this. It's something we've done in SEO. But what that's led to is this sort of decade-long Cold War, active war, really, against SEO folks and the Google, who's trying to make sure that there's no spam, that companies are really only getting rewarded if they're putting good quality content out there. But it led to this sort of world where people were being a bit spammy in the way that they would, build backlinks, where they would just do so much outreach to this kind of shady websites to just cram their blog pages filled with links to certain sites and just make that the focus rather than getting good, high quality backlinks. And backlinks are a big part of our strategy for years at Galactic Fed. That was an important part. Google recognized that. Google recognized if a company is getting backlinks from good, high authority, high quality sites, regardless of if the focus was on the backlinks rather than the content, clearly it's doing good for the brand. It's putting them out there. So Google recognized that. But with this sort of focus on entities now, Greg, what it means is that Google is able to recognize not just a backlink pointing at your site, but the named mention of, I say entity, for listeners, you can think your company's name. So I run Galactic Fed. An entity on Google might be Galactic Fed. So Google's recognizing now not just backlinks, but mentions of Galactic Fed or your brand across the entire internet. So that might be, especially with Google being better at transcribing spoken words, such as this podcast or YouTube, which Google owns, they'll be much better at translating when people talk about a certain entity, such as your brand name, when they mention just the word of it in an article. Social mentions are extremely important as well. And so it's more important than ever to view of it almost more like a PR approach rather than just a sort of outbound, link building type of approach.
Wow. That's crazy. They can really do that now?
Yeah, absolutely. I have some thoughts to share about like really tactical what brands can do. That'd be helpful, Greg.
Wait, hold on. Before we do that, let's wave, say Galactic Fed maybe 2 more times just to make sure that the
Galactic Fed.
Let's just make sure that the robots hear that.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. In this world, so YouTube, podcast, brand mentions, not backlinks, that's their algorithm now.
Yes, that is the direction we're moving in, especially in these LLM-based results. We believe that the traditional link-based SEO will also be implementing more and more of this, but especially you can count on the LLMs really incorporating this.
Wow. Okay, so no more backlinks, brand mentions. What does SEO look like in that world?
I want to be clear too, backlinks are still important for the foreseeable future. So don't count that out. It's still a very important part of your SEO strategy for the foreseeable short, medium term future, maybe long term future. Google hasn't really told us if how that'll be changing. But I would say, first of all, care less about do follow links to your site. Care more about getting brand mentions in any relevant context. So that might be just a mention, that might be in a podcast, that might be a news article, that might be YouTube, all the things you mentioned just now. I'd also say start early. LLMs take a lot longer to retrain on new data than the old model where Google could index things very quickly. So if you could start right now saying Galactic Fed, in a non-spammy way, get your brand mentioned in lots of different ways, that'll be valuable for you. It's also increasingly important to have a good social media presence. That's something else I'd love to share in a minute too, Greg. But these LLMs get trained on all sorts of data, including social posts, which are a large volume of the internet. I think it's also just important to find ways to get organic mentions rather than just links. So, just as a page with valuable information or a widget might be a link magnet or a lead magnet, as people would say. In the future, a brand with an interesting story could be a mention magnet. So if your brand's out there telling interesting stories, creating kind of wild, shocking, provocative content, that gets people talking about you, that gets you mentions, and that helps your SEO results, provided they're talking in the right areas. And I think, of course, keep building smart informational content. Google will always recognize high authority sites that are giving value to the users. Finally, I'd say also diversifying the language. This is even more important than ever. So don't just say the same phrase over and over again. I'm not just going to be out there saying Galactic Fed helps brands expand their digital marketing up and to the right. I said that phrase over and over again. Well, LLMs might associate that specific phrase with my company, but I want them to associate the work we do with SEO. I want the work that we do with consumer brands, with B2B brand. I need to be mentioning Galactic Fed in different contexts, in different ways, with different language.
Interesting. That is... Wow, my mind's spinning right now with different tactical ideas around what to even do about that. I mean, it's sort of like brings PR back to the forefront. Podcasts, videos, YouTube is interesting. Thinking even about stunts that could be interesting for different brands and how that could come to life. It's kind of wild to think about what SEO looks like in this world. So, okay, let's say you do win and you've done all this work to get brand mentions. So you have named entity recognition or semantic mentions that point back to your brand. Now we have this Gemini chunk at the top. How do you think about the value of SEO changing in the future with this big LLM chunk at the top with Is traffic going to go up? Is it going to go down? How does value change as this whole world evolves in this AI LLM chat interface that we're starting to see unfold?
Yeah, I think the way I think about this, since Google hasn't transmitted it, and I don't want to speak on their behalf and be looking back and be like, wow, Zach was wildly wrong here. What I think of is going back to first principles, which is like, what does Google care about? They care about making money, and they care about giving users information they need. And they also care about having, on the supply side, having folks to make that information indexable and accessible by Google. So we've already seen lots of legal cases come out where, ChatGPT or OpenAI rather, and Google to a degree too are getting sued or in legal trouble by indexing the content and the information on these sites without pointing back at it or giving them any recognition. So I can see that becoming a larger and larger thing in the future, where Google really needs to be more careful about giving the specific links and the specific mentions where they got information, especially the highly relevant, authoritative new content, which is why this will be more important for brands to do than ever. And yeah, I think another thing they care, so that's on the sort of supply side, making sure that websites are okay with Google sharing that information. And that also leads into, a way that even if the blue links, if you will, are pushed down further or come up in a different way, and Gemini or something is more the result, we'll see, I expect these links and these mentions to the websites will still be integrated some way in the future of Google. And I think the other thing to keep in mind, again, is Google needs to keep making money. They have quarterly earnings to hit. They need to grow. And with that, Google, you can bet, will be working very hard to figure out how they can make sure that they're making money, whether that's sponsored ads or sponsored content within the results on Gemini, whether that, the traditional model of Google ads up at the top of results. Whatever the future looks like, you can bet that brands will be able to pay to get mentioned there.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting to think about the amount of clicks or intent or value that comes from those searches on Google as that changes. I also have been changing personally I was entirely Google. Now I'm using all these different platforms to search. I'm going to Claude and ChatGPT. I'm also searching. Now I find myself on Instagram or LinkedIn searching for people. Like, how do you see the mix of search transitioning in the future?
Yeah, good question, Greg. So that's something else I find highly relevant to talk about here, which is that you'll see right now that Meta, that other TikTok, Snapchat, other social media platforms are in real time implementing their own search-based tools within their platform. I don't know if you're a WhatsApp user, Greg, but they implemented in the search bar now, you could ask WhatsApp to do simple math for you or what the nearest grocery store is. Same on Instagram and Facebook, and that's not a coincidence. It's Meta's pushing that out overall. TikTok is doing the same. They've integrated search results into their in-app results, and they're giving their new search tools like keyword insight on the Creative Center to make it easier for folks to understand what keywords are driving traffic. And I think this is really important, especially since Gen Z, Gen Alpha, younger millennials to a degree as well, are more and more searching for results with social content, and they trust social content over the Google results. Maybe because of this sort of over time, interpretation of spammy backlinks has led to some content on the internet that's these listicles and such that are untrue. People trust real, authoritative, user-generated content from real people they can look at more than ever before. So I think it's really important for brands to keep that in mind, that especially if you're targeting a younger audience, they might not be just looking for you in Google. They might be looking for you on TikTok, on Reddit, on Quora, on LinkedIn, obviously on Meta platforms as well. So what you should be doing to make sure you're front and center there, keep in mind that if you're not making good results for your users on these social platforms, your competitors will. So it's important. You need to be creating content for these social channels that addresses frequent questions within your industry, your products and your services, especially if you target Gen Z. So myself, Galactic Fed, we're looking at how we can make sure that our Instagram, that our LinkedIn pages have posts that answer frequently asked questions about how to grow campaigns, changes in the space, such as the ones we're talking about now, so that we show up quickly on results for these queries, especially since, as we spoke about earlier, it takes time for LLMs to train. And we want to get going on that now so that we are the ones that show up rather than our competitors.
That's so wild. Wait, hold on. What does that look like? So you're looking for the FAQ that people have about your brand, and how do you position that content to fit the search queries that are coming on social? That's like a wild, I haven't even heard of that concept. It's awesome. What does that look like?
So we're still experimenting with this ourselves, but what we found is successful is let's use LinkedIn as an example. I think it's pretty common for company LinkedIn pages to share career updates, to share their team outings, to share maybe a relevant piece of industry news. But what we're finding more and more effective is Galactic Fed, we're a growth marketing agency. We're looking at writing more content that says on LinkedIn in text and also in images, infographics, guides. Here is our guide to how the marketing landscape is changing in 2024. Here's what you should expect for the election year in terms of paid media spending. Here's how to set up a really killer ad campaign, whatever that may be. And we're looking first at what we can expect keyword search volume to be growing at within LinkedIn, within Meta, within these other platforms, and trying to craft content around that, similar to how you would on SEO.
Got it. So it's more like hashtag based. You're saying, let's look for the things that people are looking, hashtag search, things like that around things that your brand has authority on, and building content around almost like the hashtags, but more around the search function there.
Yeah, hashtags are definitely an important function of it too, but more than ever too, folks are searching things like, you can do within Google, you can say site, LinkedIn, future of growth influencers or something like that. And people are really looking, even using Google just to search within LinkedIn. And that's why companies like LinkedIn, like Meta, are trying to do their own search bar. So I wouldn't be surprised, for example, if even LinkedIn has this sort of search for anything you want sort of thing, rather than just names and hashtags in the future.
That's interesting. And it's probably less competitive than Google. If you have something to say, that I'm sure even if there's less search volume, you could get a lot of traffic, clicks, impressions, because there's not as much probably competition in some of these platforms.
Exactly. And I think that's why being on top of platforms that are growing and getting yourself early and getting yourself anchored in there can make it even easier for a brand to grow very fast relative than trying to compete in the big spaces, the big audiences with Google and Meta and such.
That's awesome. That's very cool. One other question. I mean, I know you mentioned this just now, the election. The election's coming up. It's going to be crazy in a lot of ways, but like, we're here to talk about marketing. We're here to talk about sales. What's going to happen? Like, there's going to be a lot of dollars spent, a lot of craziness happening. What do you predict that's going to look like for a marketer going into the election cycle?
Yeah. So Greg, you may remember 2016, the Trump-Hillary presidential campaign was the first multi-billion-dollar ad election, right? This was the first one. The Trump-Biden campaign of 2020 was at least double that. I can't quite remember the stats. The one that's coming up now in 2024, we're expecting 3 times more ad spend than the 2020 election.
Are you serious?
3 times more, yes. So it is more important than ever to consider how this will affect your brand's ad strategy and what you need to be doing to combat it. We can all maybe as marketers,
to wrap my head around. I'm just processing that number. 3x bigger than 2020, which was 2x bigger than 2020.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, Zach, that's crazy. Is that just the presidential? That's presidential, Senate, Congress, whatever.
Everything. Yeah. I think that's something that marketers need to keep in mind. You're not just competing against the Trump and the Biden campaigns. Obviously, we're speaking with American audience here. You have to compete against Senate, Congress, local elections, and everything too, who will be deploying their own ad budgets as well. And we're all marketers here. We understand how it works, but just to quickly back up, you may be saying, "Why? I'm not a politician. I'm not competing in the political ad space." But keep in mind that this is way more important for the stop scrollable platform, the social platforms primarily. Instagram, Reddit, LinkedIn, Quora, Facebook, etc., because those are the places where you bid based on audiences, based on people. So when an election has all this money, all this budget to deploy, and their user is all constituents of the United States, that means anyone 18 and up really could be a target for their ad spend. And since it's all a live auction of how it works, they're going to be bidding against you. So even if you do want to outcompete, what used to be just your competitor for this audience, now you're also outcompeting billions and billions of dollars by these campaigns. And I have some advice on what I would say to do well, if that'd be helpful.
Yeah. What would you? How do you even prepare for that? That's crazy.
Yeah. So important thing to keep in mind is that, again, the most budget will be deployed against these stop scrollable platforms, mainly the social platforms. Google search, different search ads will be more important than ever. High intent queries. The Trump campaign, the Biden campaign aren't going to be searching, buying keywords that say, B2B SaaS finance software platforms. That's still something that you can own. I think also non-traditional platforms are more important than ever. It might be a really great time for your brand to try experimenting more on Reddit or some of these other growing platforms that might be a little harder for the bigger budget campaigns to find themselves in. I'd also say SEO and growth are going to be really important here too. The search, I say Google search broadly, but of course we spoke about LLMs and these other areas. This might be a really good time for your brand to double down on, okay, how do we figure out our search strategy, both organic and paid in 2024, so that when 2025 comes around or the end of 2024 and we can get back on social platforms, we have a ripping search program going as well. Finally, too, I'd say social influencer marketing, that sort of stuff too. If that's a type of program that can work for your users, that's a good place to invest in as well. Specifically, organic social and influencer, if people are following folks and not on the paid side of things.
That makes tons of sense. I think my main takeaway there is start investing in SEO right now. That seems like a no-brainer. I'm gonna need some of your help on that. If anyone here wants to start thinking about SEO and maybe wants some extra advice or some help, where can they contact you?
Yeah, we love helping brands grow. We love whether you're a startup trying to get your dream come true or a larger company looking for a more integrated solution across multiple platforms. We're able to help you out. GalacticFed.com, Galactic, like GalacticFed, GalacticFed.com. We'd love to help you out. We do free marketing audits on your programs. So we'd be happy to tell you what our experts see and what we'd recommend doing and take the conversation from there. Of course, as we said, we're on LinkedIn or on these other channels as well, trying to make good guides to help you out to make marketing reality for you too. So check us out there.
That's awesome. I actually want a marketing audit. What's in a marketing audit?
So we have them depending on what you want, whatever channel it may be. So we have a way to do really great audits where our team will sit down, spend hours and hours pouring through your website, your ad programs, your spend on whether that's Meta ads, Google ads, LinkedIn, Reddit, Quora, Snapchat, TikTok, et cetera. And we just, again, Greg, we've worked with over 600 companies now. We really know what works in what space. And we know the common mistakes that folks make, even at a high level when they think that they're really good marketers. We've just seen so much and have so much data that we know when folks aren't doing the right things. And we try to share that, whether that's on SEO, whether that's email marketing, whether that's paid media, whether that's something else. We have platforms and programs to do these audits by hand, by our team, for whatever you need.
All right. Well, Zach, I'm ready to get started on an SEO audit. I can't wait for that.
Let's
Awesome.
do it, Greg.
Let's do it. Zach, thank you so much. I have a lot to think on, mostly SEO, trying to figure out my named entity recognition and PR semantic search strategy. And I'm thinking a lot about what we can do with social too. I think there's a lot of good nuggets in here that I need to get started on today because this election is going to come fast and I need to make sure that we're ready to go. Zach, this is great. Thank you so much. Looking forward. Maybe we'll have you back on very soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah,
Thank you, everybody,
thanks,
for
Zach.
listening.
All
Take care.
right, see ya.
Buff up your ears, it's time to ignite. GTM leaders bringing secrets to light. Revenue boost